Welcome back to our prospect deep dive series. Today we are doing Luther Burden, the wide receiver out of Mizzou. A couple of notes. He's an early declare, listed at 5'11", 208. That is unofficial. We got to wait for the combine. Projected mid to late first on most consensus boards, and he is currently 22 and will play most of his rookie season at 22 years old. A lot of buzz, a lot of hype. A lot of people have a sour taste in their mouth after 2024. Evan, tell us what the analytics say about Luther Burden.
Yeah, so analytics, we're looking at what he did in 2024, which was mostly playing the slot. He did play a little bit outside more when he was a freshman, but transitioned more to the slot. They found that the offense was best able to use him from there. He had 80 targets for 61 receptions for 676 yards this past season. 373 of them, though, came as yards after the catch, which if you do that quick math right there, you'll realize that's over 50%, which is pretty cool. You have an ADOT of 9, which is rather low for a wide receiver that we want to be a 1 in most college offenses, should be a 1 in most college offenses. Yards per route run, we're talking 2.32 this past season. We had 85 of his yards behind the line of scrimmage, 276 in the short area, 0 to 9 yards. And then didn't really do a ton in that mid-game zone area, that 10 to 19, only 98 yards. And then deep ball, we're talking 217 of his yards. So you can see most of his damage was done in that 0 to 9 yard range. Does he deserve a pass for this season?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mike. You're saying yes right off the bat. Brady Cook was bad this season. He regressed. It was pretty clear that he regressed from his 2023 self. Maybe you can make an argument that was because Cody Schrader wasn't there anymore. I know you're darling from last year. But crazy enough, Theo Weiss actually out-yardaged Luther Burden by a lot in this offense this past season on 1 less reception. So, man, that is not something that you really want to be seeing here, Mike. So when you start looking at this from a metric standpoint, you start having some concern, seeing some regression, but you look at the film and he has enough good in his film, especially in 2013 or 2023, to be able to go off of. So I think he is a very good prospect. Mike, what are you seeing from the film side?
Yeah. Quick note on Theo Weiss. I think that he just fit what Brady Cook and the offense wanted to do a little more, which was just throw the ball and hope. Just a big, big hope and a prayer. But on film for Burden, look, burst, and more burst. If you want any play to go to the house, throw it to Luther Burden on a quick slant, see what happens. There's going to be this note around him that he's a gadget guy because of that low ADOT, because of how he was using the Mizzou offense. I think what we saw from freshman and sophomore Burden showed that he can do a lot of those things. He's an effective route runner. He just struggled in 2024 with how Mizzou's offense was being run. The way that he wins with his physicality and explosiveness. He can do that either early in the route by getting a step on a defender and then just leaving him in the dust, or he uses a little bit of a hip bump or, little press off at the top of a route in order to give himself a little bit of space. The big thing that one of these teams is going to really enjoy, he's a chess piece for an offense. You can use him in the slot. You can line him up in the backfield if you really want to, although he didn't do that too much. The way that he wins and the way that he plays, you can put him anywhere on the field and feel comfortable about what he's going to do. You just don't want him to run a bunch of, sacrificial X deep balls. That's not what he's going to do. And then there's another anecdote around him. People think that he has this big drop problem because he had that as a freshman. Cleaned it up a little bit as a sophomore, and then this last year he was only credited with 3 drops. It's gotten better. And listen, if I had Cook throwing me the ball, I'd probably drop a couple too. Best team fits, we went through this before the show. I think the Broncos make a ton of sense. They need someone outside of Cortland Sutton. Pittsburgh is going to be looking for a slot, whether it is Burden, Ibuka, or someone later in the draft. Or here's a fun one. The Rams, if Kupp gets traded. So let's say that he goes to one of those 3 teams because we like those fits a lot. Evan, what are you comfortable with for his dynasty price?
Oh man, Dynasty price. Once again, we get back into the same question with Tet. There's so
Yep.
many running backs in this draft that you're really looking at. You're going to have the detractors from this past season because of what Luther did. You're going to have the casual fans that are going to be looking at it saying, oh, well, he took a giant dip in production. Oh, he wasn't
Mhm.
really injured much. Oh, okay. Like what was going on? Dynasty price, if we're talking right now, I would be putting him behind first tight end, behind both quarterbacks because it's still super flex league, still need quarterbacks, still quarterback hungry, and I would be putting him behind multiple running backs, which is probably going to be pushing him to that 109 slot for me. Is probably where I'm going to be targeting him. If you really want to get, frisky with it, you could probably say, all right, I'm going to take a shot on him over both the quarterbacks because let's face it, we've already talked about that and where we look at them.
Yeah.
But you want to push him up to 106, 107. I'm not going to slight you for it, but I personally won't be doing that.
Yep. I have him as wide receiver 2 in this class. Are you with me on that, or do you have Igbuka higher?
I personally like Igbuka more than Burden, but I can see why many of people would put him as wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tier, and then it ends up team fit where they end up going. Ah, man, running backs in this draft. I can't look at myself at the 105 and say, yep, I'm going to take Luther Burden over Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, or, there's a conversation to be had around Tyler Warren and the quarterbacks. Bottom line on Luther Burden, if he hits, he is the type of skill set that could definitely elevate your fantasy teams, elevate an offense. Depends on how they get him the ball. If they're trying to get him out there and they're making him run, corners, posts all of the time, and that's how they want him to win, it's going to be hit and miss, probably better for best ball. But if they have him running those slants, those ins, those long routes where he's just going across the field and being able to create a little separation using his explosiveness, I like that a little bit more, which is why the Broncos and Rams would be exciting with the Joker role or, put a good athlete in a Sean McVay offense and good things happen. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. Evan, anything else on Luther Burden?
Man, he is a polarizing prospect, Mike. He is somebody that people will absolutely love, or people will be like, yeah, it's just a blind spot. Someone else can have him. So we'll see what he is come this draft season. What do you think about his testing? You think he's going to test well?
I think that 10-yard split is going to be very important for how we view him as a prospect. It's one thing to watch the tape. He looks explosive. He looks the part. Maybe he goes out there and he's actually slow and he just looked explosive because the Mizzou uniforms are sweet. I think he should test well, but I've been wrong before.
We'll see. Combine's coming up.
Can't wait for the combine. Can't wait for the rest of this series. Evan, I love you. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to check out written content, head over to lastwordonsports.com.
Don't let the goblins get you.